What we've stumbled upon here, I think, is one of the best podcasts I've ever heard. They call it Heels and Quads, and they say, tell your friends and tell your enemies.
Anchor. Welcome to the Heels and Quads podcast. I'm Levi at Levi D. Zindel on Twitter.
And I'm Tommy at Mr. Tommy Walter on Twitter, and you were almost off the list. Almost
you're
off
staying.
the list.
You're staying.
Now.
And the reason why we're saying this is because this is the third time now that we're trying to record this. So.
And I did 2 podcasts earlier, and it was perfectly fine. So, Anchor.
What the hell, man?
Don't mess with us. But then again, I was on Wi-Fi, so I switched to LTE, because Verizon is the most reliable network.
It is, and I use that network as well as you. So, Verizon, if you want to sponsor the show, go ahead. And if you want your own T-shirt, head on over to prowrestlingtees.com/Heels and Quads. Look at what we got, or email us and tell us you want a Verizon shirt with the Heels and Quads logo on it.
There you go. Email Verizon. Tell them to sponsor the show. Tell them that the CEO of Verizon needs to head over to prowrestlingtees.com/Heels and Quads and check out one of 2 designs. The second design finally went up today, ladies and gents, so head on over that way and get some of that stuff. Or go over to collarandelbowbrand.com. Use code Heels and Quads in all caps and save 10%.
Yes, there we go. We got that out of the way, but we got 2 or 3 more times we got to do it.
Yeah, we got to do it a few more
times. So, today, we're all gathered here today, Tommy and I, to finally do what was voted on Twitter, as actually it was the most favorite, big time. It was the highest voted poll we've had, right?
Yeah.
We gave a few options. I don't remember what all the other ones were right now.
Bullet Club debut.
Oh, yeah, it was all fantasy booking options.
Yeah, it was Bullet Club debuts in WWE. What else was it?
WrestleMania 34 build.
WrestleMania 34 build, which, I mean, we kind of do that anyways, and they're kind of going with what we assume they're going with, so there's no sense in that winning. And then I think there was one more, wasn't there?
Yeah, I don't remember what the third one was, but this one, let's just call this one the fourth one, the Invasion 2001 Angle. Notorious for being a big failure, supposedly. I enjoyed it. I was a kid at the time. I thought it was fun to watch because, I don't know, it was just really fun.
Well, here's the thing that was fun about it, is in 2001, WWE was still known as WWF.
Right.
So that makes it even more fun.
I had to get the gimmick out.
Levi's got his gimmick, and I'm not enjoying a hashtag ice cold gimmick. I'm enjoying a hashtag my favorite diet soda gimmick.
Oh, are you drinking a flavored Diet Coke?
It's not Diet Coke. I didn't want to say the name of the brand. It is Diet. It starts with a P and ends in an I. So.
Oh, okay.
Go with that.
Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, don't say it. Let's not say it unless they want to sponsor the show. We can say it.
And because now they're aspartame free, so that's why I stuck to this.
Okay.
I don't want that shit in my body that causes cancer. As I'm about to light up a cigarette.
That doesn't cause cancer though. That just puts hair on your chest.
Makes you a man.
That's why I started vaping.
Hey, if there is any kids out there, don't smoke, don't drink. Do the things the right way. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, drink your milk.
Go to your local vapor supply store and buy yourself a vape if you feel like doing that, because the only ingredients in e-liquid, if you're buying the right e-liquid, should only be propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, and artificial or natural flavoring, and or nicotine if you want nicotine in yours. I personally use nicotine in mine at 3 milligrams, so anybody who wants to sponsor me with some vape juice.
Yeah, come on, vape companies, get on board. And speaking of gimmicks, if anybody at the fine folks of Yingling Brewing Company wants to sponsor the show.
Yes. By the way, that's in Arkansas now. Yes.
We have it where I work on tap. It will be
available. Oh, you do?
It will be available in cans and bottles next week, so I will be partaking in
a
lot of Yingling drinking next week.
Yep, I think you probably got to drink that on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of grew up drinking that stuff, and obviously, anytime anybody comes back from the East Coast, usually brings me at least a case. When I was in Florida,
it's necessary.
A couple of years ago, summer before last, I took the kids and the wife to Florida, and I drank nothing but Yingling the whole time.
Well, it's a good beer for like, it's one of those like, it's almost like a better Coors to me, because it's one of those beers that's not super fucking heavy and that you can drink every season.
And the light is actually really good. Like if you don't drink full flavored beers and you're more of a light person, Yingling Light is delicious, especially in a can. And because I'm a can man, and it's only 99 calories.
Nice.
Not to be confused with only $9.99.
Well, that's how much the WWE Network is, and that is what I watched a lot of 2001 wrestling on recently.
That was a nice segue.
Yes, it was. I did watch a lot of 2001 stuff recently, and when I say recently, probably was like last year, and it wasn't for this or anything because we had no intention of doing it just yet last year, but I was watching a little bit of it. I look back at 2001 every now and then as a nostalgic year for me because that's my favorite WrestleMania is X-Seven. 17 X-Seven. That's my favorite WrestleMania.
It's probably the most talked about WrestleMania too.
Yeah, it was just the card was just great, and you got Rock and Austin number 2, and
I personally enjoyed the gimmick battle royal myself.
Oh yeah, definitely, that was a good one too. Definitely, I was still playing with a lot of wrestlers at the time, and well, at the time I didn't have a Raw crate, SmackDown crate, and Legends crate, but I did have a Legends box with all my Legends wrestlers, and so I really got down on that. But the gimmick battle royal was pretty badass.
All right, well, let's dive in.
So we start. This is the Invasion 2001 fantasy booking, as I stated earlier. Do you want to just do what we spoke of earlier doing? You want me to just head into it?
Yeah, go ahead and head into it, and I'll just kind of fill in the blanks, because I didn't know Levi was going to prep as much as he did. I obviously didn't put as much work into it. I just kind of made matches.
You put work in other places, so don't give yourself a pat on the back for that.
No, I know. But I made matches, and like my main matches were going to be the feuds for the whole year, and obviously the undercard, mid card was going to be just kind of they were interchangeable.
All right.
So I'll let Levi go, and then I'll kind of just fill in the blanks, and then I'll give you guys at the end I'll give you guys my matches that I typed up.
All right. So I went with this March 26th. Vince buys WCW. I don't remember if it was a kayfabe thing or if it was a legit a shoot that night, because I remember watching Raw that night, and it was pretty fucking crazy because both shows Vince was on the Titantron and Shane was at Nitro. So that kind of kept that the same because you have to. You can't really change anything about that. But my true fantasy booking starts on April 1st at WrestleMania. And it doesn't start till the end. And everything's the same. Rock versus Austin, number 2. Vince comes down, and for some reason, and I kind of, after I wrote this, I kind of I just kind of did a pointless booking thing here, but Vince still helps Stone Cold win the match. But in my booking, Stone Cold's down, and he just beats the shit out of The Rock with a chair for no reason because he's got a grudge against The Rock at the time. Let's just put it that way. And so he screws Rock over, and Stone Cold wins, and Stone Cold gets up. He's got the belt, and Vince puts out his hand to shake. But instead of Stone Cold actually making contact and shaking hands, it goes dark in the arena. And this is at the end of WrestleMania. So this leaves you with a cliffhanger waiting for the night after WrestleMania. And after it goes dark, well, it kind of, on your TV screens, it turns black and white. And on the Titantron, there it is. It's the NWO.
Bow, ow, 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 ow.
There it is.
Ow, ow, New world order.
And the crowd pop is unbelievable. And everybody's kind of in awe, like, what the fuck is going on? Even The Rock is kind of starting to get his composure and get up, and he's in the corner. And they're staring at the stage, and out comes Hogan playing air guitar, Scott Hall wobbling, and Nash trying not to blow a quad. And,
did you actually write that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But that was all improv.
Okay.
They all walk out, and there's kind of a stare down between the 3 in the ring and the 3 up there. And Vince is looking around like, what the hell's going on? Stone Cold's just kind of looking like I'll still kick your ass, and Rock is like a bloody mess, but he's like, everybody's kind of in awe. And that's it. The show ends. And so, even the audience doesn't see anything. Everything ends. Everybody goes backstage. Well, the next night on Raw, Rock comes out at the start of the show and says he's screwed out of his title. Stone Cold Steve Austin comes down after. He says he didn't need Vince's help, and he'll kick his ass at Backlash if he wants his rematch. Well, then Vince comes down, because, at Raw, everybody's got to make their grand entrance at the start of the show over and over and over again. Vince comes down and says, yeah, you guys can do your rematch at Backlash, but we have bigger problems, and that's these three that came back last night. This poison, and he still uses the poison thing.
The poison! I'm injecting the poison.
I'm injecting a poison into the company. So yeah, he's out there talking about that, and NWO is not there that night because obviously these guys are going to have a limited schedule, especially Hogan, and get paid a ton of money because realistically, I went with these three guys. They get their contracts bought out because what was the hottest thing in WCW towards the end was the NWO. Well, that died off eventually. So he buys their three contracts. They're the only ones out of the Ted Turner contracts that he bought out because he could afford those three. And all the other guys still come, though. DDP, Booker, and all that. And that's what I'm getting to here is as these guys are talking in the ring, you start to see Booker come out of the crowd, DDP coming out of the crowd, Sean Stasiak, and those guys start coming out, and they all surround the ring. DDP's the guy who grabs the mic and says, you screwed us out of our jobs by buying the company, and we're going to make your life hell. And Vince is like, whatever, if you guys want jobs, you're going to work for it. This is my company. That's my money. I bought your company out. I put you guys in the ground. He flexes his nuts a little bit, basically.
The grapefruit.
And the grapefruits. He's got to flex the grapefruits. So Vince says, yeah, if you guys want jobs, you're going to work for it. And this is kind of setting up Backlash. So Backlash turns out to be a pretty big show because he says, if you WCW guys win X amount of matches, I'll give you all contracts or whatever. So at Backlash, kind of changes the card, and Backlash turns out to have a pretty awesome card. So I wrote down some matches for that. Triple H versus Booker T being one of them. Because the power trip wasn't going to happen because Austin didn't turn heel at this point. Because why have Austin turn heel? That was kind of a weird thing about that year.
Still the biggest question I have on that show.
It was odd because it's just like that rivalry was so strong, and then all of a sudden, like, him and McMahon are buddies.
Yeah, we're going to put it down. Nah, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
So, yeah, it sets up some Backlash matches. I won't go through all the Raws in between there, and there's a lot of shit I skipped out on throughout the summer. But you got Triple H versus Booker T, Edge versus DDP. I wrote down Billy Gunn versus Sean Stasiak just because.
You got to have Meat go against somebody.
Meat.
And now it's Dr. Sean Stasiak.
Yes. Hall and Nash versus Taker and Kane. Stone Cold versus The Rock. That's the title rematch. And what goes down at this show? First of all, Triple H goes over Booker because, of course, Booker's not going to win that match.
He's the gamer.
He's the gamer. DDP beats Edge, thus getting his job. Billy Gunn and Sean Stasiak's match is kind of just a upper mid-card match. Stasiak wins by a cheap roll-up.
I'm an ass man.
Bow, wow.
Yeah, I'm an ass man.
So there's originally on the Backlash 2001 card, there's Raven versus Rhino for the hardcore title. And this is when ECW debuts. They assist Rhino in winning it, or vice versa, whoever was the title holder, they do that. And then everybody's like, oh my God, there's more to this. ECW's here. What the hell? Paul Heyman and the boys are all there. So this creates the beginning of the alliance. Hall and Nash beat Taker and Kane with help from X-Pac because X-Pac is one of their boys, but he's a WWF guy at the time, but he helps them, and he's back in the NWO. During the Stone Cold and Rock title rematch, Hulk Hogan screws The Rock, and this is going to set up the WrestleMania 18 match. This is going to be a year-long build, slow thing. NWO beats down Stone Cold after he beats The Rock, and it kind of ends with the just total confusion. The show just, they're like, what the fuck? So on from that, I got a frog again.
Oh, God.
Kind of blabbing here. The Raw after Backlash, Vince opens up the show, comes out, keeps his word. He gives the NWO their job. You know, it was a poison, blah, blah, blah. DDP gets his job, and he kind of tries to screw Booker out of his... This is just kind of a weird thing I did. He kind of tries to screw Booker out of his job and says, you lost your match to the game. You couldn't beat the game. And NWO comes out, their music hits, and they said, it's all right that he lost his match because you hired the NWO. You didn't hire everybody, all of us, by different contracts. You hired the NWO, kayfabe, whatever. So Booker T comes out with an NWO shirt on. And mind you, NWO now is Booker T, X-Pac, and the original three. Kind of from here, it's just kind of summertime. It's weeks go by of WCW guys tormenting WWF and Vince, and titles change back and forth. You have a lot of titles right now. And so we kind of get to the end of the summer, beginning the SummerSlam build after Fully Loaded / Invasion, whatever you want to call it, that year. It was just a title show, basically. It's just all title matches back and forth. WCW versus WWE. WWF, excuse me. And then at SummerSlam, we get a build to SummerSlam. And so at SummerSlam, you're going to have the undisputed tag team championship match because you don't need the WCW tag title and the WWF one. I kept this match the same as the original one. It's the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and Taker, versus DDP and Kanyon in the steel cage because it was a good match. And obviously, the Brothers of Destruction win this. I kind of nixed the creepy DDP thing. I'm sure you can agree with that. The weird, stalking Sarah thing.
I don't know. I liked it. And the smiling. I thought it was entertaining. But
it was good, but I just nixed it out of this just so it would make sense more of he's on WCW side. He's not stalking Taker's wife. But it was good. It was okay. I kept the RVD and Jeff Hardy ladder match because that was a great match. And then you got somewhere along the line in the summer, Scott Hall becomes U.S. champion again. So you got Edge versus Scott Hall at SummerSlam, Intercontinental versus U.S. title. Edge wins that, and because Intercontinental title is going to be the end-all, be-all of the titles. So they're kind of trying to unify these, basically.
Yeah, you're going to kill off the WCW titles.
Right, that's what it was. There's the Cruiserweight and Light Heavyweight match. Some other random matches on the card. And then the two main events here, I kept Booker and Rock for the WCW title. Rock does win the WCW title because we're going to keep Vengeance the same down the road. And the main event for SummerSlam, I booked as was Steve Austin because WrestleMania. This match kind of ends in controversy like usual, as you know, because it's a NWO thing. Back then, all the title matches, the WWF title, the heavyweight title matches are always no disqualification, if I'm not mistaken. I remember them being that way.
You're correct.
So, and that just kind of went away in recent years. But, so you get Hogan versus Austin. Well, I mean, guess what happens? NWO helps Hogan win the title. So now you got the belt back on old Hulk Hogan. I figured you'd like that, actually.
Back on Terry.
You got the belt back on Terry, and this is kind of where I cut off, and I was just going to kind of improv from here with you.
Do you have him spray paint the belt at the end?
I don't see why not, just because they want to desecrate the WWF title. So, yeah, just like they did the World Heavyweight title.
At this point, it's the big round one, right?
Yes.
With, the bluish strap.
Yeah, it's the one that...
Okay.
Yeah.
I was making sure, because it didn't change over to the weird squarish-looking one until Ruthless Aggression, right?
The undisputed one, it was Ruthless Aggression, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So this is...
Because that's the last title that Hogan actually won was after Mania when he beat Triple H.
Yeah, and I liked that little period. I liked that because the title was kind of changing. It was a fun little summer to watch. But yeah.
See,
so
Hogan, I was a fan of that time period. Like, because, I mean, obviously, being the big Hogan mark that I am, I enjoyed him having one last run with the title. But I just was never a fan of that look. And I know a lot of people will disagree because I know a lot of people, including yourself, like the look of that title. I just thought it was – I guess it's just not the title I grew up with, so I'm always going to be more of a Winged Eagle fan.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love the Winged Eagle. Don't get me wrong. I think the Winged Eagle could have went on all the way up to that title, but for some reason they changed it to the round one.
Unless when Stone Cold had the belt and then it was the Smoking Skull, but which cool,
was sweet
with the rattlesnake back and all that.
I think off the topic of Invasion for a second, I think if you wanted to make Undisputed belt a little better, they should have just used that instead of for years. But the spinner belt was over, so whatever. So anyways, yeah, like I said, man, from here I just kind of figured we improv on this. Hogan's the champion. He's obviously going to be, like in WCW, he's not going to be defending the title at every pay-per-view, so he doesn't defend it at Unforgiven. He probably doesn't defend it at No Mercy.
But he still shows
up at Survivor Series.
That was the thing. Is like people, bitch a lot about Hogan and WCW and like, oh, well, he never defended the belt. Yeah, but he was pretty much always.
But he was there. Yes.
But that was
he was always there.
It was like he would, like J.J. Dillon would say, hey, you haven't defended your title in 30 days. We're gonna strip you of the title if you don't defend your title. And then it was kind of like a build to a match. He was always in a build. So and he was always there doing the promos. Which I mean, shit. I mean, as a Hulk Hogan fan, I'd almost rather listen to him talk than wrestle.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll call it spade a spade. Now,
let's be real.
If you go back and watch, and you can do this on New Japan World. You can go back and watch some of Hogan's matches in Japan, and he was really actually pretty freaking great in the ring.
Maybe it was just because of the two companies wanted him to be Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
maybe.
But I mean, in Japan, he was doing drop kicks and all kinds of shit. But
he kind of got some freedom.
Anyways, I digress.
So, I mean, what do you say, man? After SummerSlam, I say maybe Hogan does a match, but it's a non-title at Unforgiven, maybe. Or maybe he holds the belt and just is a dick and is like, I'm not. But it's kayfabe.
Right.
It's on TV. He's like, I'm not defending this belt. I earned this back, and they're just being total heels. NWO's basically taken over. Yeah, exactly. NWO's kind of taken over again, but this time it's more over because it was at the right time, not like a couple months down the line where it was kind of just random.
And I love this because you actually have it kind of start the year before.
Yeah, so it builds that Rock and Hogan match,
and that's what that match. I mean, not that match wasn't a great. Well, I can't say it was a great match. It was a great moment. The match was still good.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was fair enough. But once the match picked up, man, Hogan worked his ass off in that match.
Yeah, and I mean, you remember the poor Jericho and Triple H, man. The crowd was dead.
And Jericho admits it to this day on his podcast. He didn't want to follow it.
No, they should have went before it. I mean, that's definitely the main.
But I mean, Hogan. This was still in that time, like you said. The title always closed the show. So.
Yep.
But no, I really like what you did going in. Obviously, leaving SummerSlam. I think you're right, man. I think Hogan, kind of just he's on Raw. He's whatever, doing whatever.
He's there.
He's there, but he's not defending the title.
Yeah, he's cold, but he's doing it. They're booked it that way on purpose because he's being just the arrogant heel. It's like, this is my belt. I earn it back. It's spray painted every week. He's holding the same belt, the NWO. You get to see the WWF belt with the NWO on it,
which would be cool.
Yeah, totally. And so, and I did that. I booked it that way with SummerSlam with Hogan and Stone Cold because you obviously keep Rock and Hogan because that was the end all be all for this, anyways.
But they knew that going into when they brought them in. So even here, the eventual payoff is Hogan and Rock at Mania.
And that's why it didn't happen at SummerSlam. It didn't happen at Survivor Series. We'll get to that.
But everybody still wants to see Hogan and Stone Cold.
Yeah, they want to see the rematch. I think maybe you do that. Maybe we do that at Survivor Series. We say the rematch happens then. Stone Cold gets the belt back because Survivor Series is when the WWF does beat WCW, and then it just kind of ends. It stops being. Maybe we stop it there, or we stop it at WrestleMania. That's the question. Because Survivor Series, you got to have the WWF versus WCW match.
I honestly think you end it here. I think you end it a little early, but I mean, just going off the way you booked. Now, my thought going into it is we build it for a full year, but I kind of what I had in mind was, you know, it was going to be more of the same time period, but just everybody kind of comes in at the same time. Maybe NWO comes in a little bit earlier. I like that because, I mean, they kind of did. Or actually, they did. But, you still want, you know, you want the build. The build is where it's at.
Yeah.
The build is where you're, in turn, going to make your money. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think Austin beats Hogan for the title at Survivor Series. And then you have, like, let's see. I think you have like a WCW team, WWF team, obviously. But then maybe you have like an NWO, maybe ECW team.
Yeah. As like another Survivor Series match?
Yeah. Because, I mean, obviously you're going to have more than one elimination match. And then, I mean, you obviously have to have...
And you have a plethora of talent.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the sky's the freaking limit at this point. And then, I mean, but... Where would you take it going to the Rumble? Who wins your Rumble beforehand?
So, I mean, obviously, with Survivor Series, like we said, all that happens there. The WWF team wins. Just overall, because they have to close it out with, you know, you say the build to Survivor Series is Vince says, if my teams win at this show, then all this nonsense is over. And you guys keep your jobs and whatnot, but all this I'm taking over shit is over. And they agree, you know, they eventually come to an agreement. And then when you go up to Rumble, I mean, why doesn't Triple H still win it, you know? Maybe he wins still. That was his Rumble.
Yeah.
Or do you say we do something with
I mean, do you keep the strap on Austin through Mania? He's the champ?
Well, that's a valid question, because you could take it off him at Rumble. It goes to, I don't know, it goes to somebody else, and then Rock picks it up at No Way Out, and then you do Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania for the title.
For the title. Oh, okay. Well, that changes everything.
Because that eliminates the fact of Chris and Triple H having to try to go after that match, because then that match becomes the main event
automatically, because not only is it the biggest match on the card, but it's also for the title,
right? And then the WCW title is still kind of floating around, because unless we unify them at Vengeance still, that's another question.
I think you keep them separate.
That works.
And maybe even at some point you're doing a draft beforehand.
Yeah. Because the draft was right after Mania, pretty much.
But I think you have the draft a little sooner, maybe even after Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, okay, we won, we're ending this, but we have way too big of a roster for everybody to get an opportunity on, you know, both these shows. But, you know, obviously Rock and Triple H and Stone Cold, they're going to wrestle on both shows.
Yeah.
So you have to split the titles early, so that way you have a title on each show.
Which, in going into Survivor Series, I mean, I think Rock would still be WCW champ. And
so Rock goes to SmackDown.
Yeah, Rock goes to SmackDown. And he originally did, I think.
Yeah, he did.
In the original draft. Yeah. So he goes to SmackDown. Stone Cold's obviously going to be the Raw guy. And then, then I guess at Rumble... See, that does make the question. So let's roll with that then. Yeah, you do the draft right after Survivor Series. And I think you keep NWO on Raw because that's the flagship show, and NWO is kind of a hot attraction. And then for SmackDown, you got like you said, Rock, Taker probably, because
Triple H.
Booker.
Kind of the bigger names that you would want to see on the separate show than Austin and NWO. Because obviously Austin and the NWO is going to kind of take over Raw completely.
Yes. I'm vaping it up, sorry. So, you got that. And then I guess, going into Vengeance is kind of just, I don't think you do many big matches at Vengeance. You do.
No, it's kind of, everybody's kind of getting their footing. They're like, okay, well, this brand split thing's kind of weird. But let's see what we can do.
Yeah, so you just do kind of some one-off title matches. You don't really start anything until after Vengeance to build for Mania. And I think that's when you kind of start to put in place the Hogan and Rock thing. Because I think Rock just goes ahead and maybe, there you go. Rock holds the WCW title all the way until WrestleMania, or after, because I think he still goes over Hogan.
Hogan has we have Hogan win the WWE title back from Austin at the Rumble.
There we go.
And that way at Mania, it's going to unify them again.
There we go.
So they have a draft, but then they kind of like nix the idea, or we have the champion show up on both shows.
Yeah, maybe that. Because that's how it was, too, when they first did it. Taker bounced between both shows.
Right, and with Rock being the champion, other than Hogan only has to really work Raw, so it's not as tedious of a work schedule for him, being that he was older.
And he's going to do what they're going to give him what he wants.
Right, because he's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So, there it is. I mean, you book, that's your match for WrestleMania, and that's how you get there. Now, Now, what do you do with Stone Cold?
So,
obviously, your Mania, the Mania that I built, which is kind of like that match card, I was thinking more of the Invasion, but I'm like, nah, I'd save that for Mania, actually. But, so you have that. So who do you have Austin going?
Well, seeing as how him and Hogan have already done their program, that's done. Hogan is now in a match with Triple H. Stone Cold's not champion anymore, and Hogan and Rock is the unification of the titles. So let's say that for sure. Stone Cold we try not to get him lost in the shuffle here, but to me, it's like you just put him back in a program with maybe you put him in the Power Trip then, or you put him back in a program with Triple H or something, just to have a big Mania match, because they've had a ton of matches though off of Mania. But maybe Stone Cold and Triple H do their big Mania match that year. But that takes away the Chris Jericho and Triple H thing. So.
And I mean, honestly, I think you could still do Triple H and Jericho, and that's still going to draw.
Because of the Stephanie thing.
Right. And obviously, your main draw is going to be Hogan and Rock. Because that people see that on a poster or on the commercials, and even if they don't watch wrestling, they're going to be like, oh, well, maybe I should get back into it.
Yeah. Maybe you do Taker and Kevin Nash in a singles, just because they had it. They had it in the 90s. It was Taker and Diesel, but it's the two big men going at it, and it's
maybe you do Scott Hall and Kane here.
That's kind of what I was thinking, kind of where I was going, because they've done that. It was kind of a rivalry. The way I look at it is, I kind of booked it like it was a rivalry all year, because that was the two big guy tag teams at the time. And so you kind of just split it up and you do two singles, because I like seeing the singles matches more at WrestleMania. Just my opinion. So maybe you do that, and Taker and Kevin have had Mania match before, but this one is different because it's like he's representing NWO, and it's still just kind of it's like WrestleMania just finishes the NWO's feud with the WWF guys, and after that is kind of when NWO still goes away afterwards.
Yeah, which I mean, I think it should have once Hogan and Rock put on the eventual match they do. Our version of WrestleMania 18, it's like, okay, well, Hogan gets a face reaction, so we want to see the red and yellow Hogan.
Yeah, he sticks around. Yeah, like you said. So you got You got Hogan and Rock unifying the titles. You got
Rock wins.
So he unifies. He's the undisputed champ, and that makes it kind of a bigger deal. And he's gonna drop the title soon, anyways, because he's going to do the Scorpion King or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do we go with Stone Cold and Triple H just for shits and giggles, or do we do the Triple H and Chris Jericho for the Stephanie rivalry thing? Just to put,
I think you stick with Triple H and Triple H and Jericho.
Yeah, that works because that fills a spot for Stone Cold to do something else or whatever.
And see, in my fantasy booking, just to give it away here, because we are at WrestleMania now, so this is obviously where it's going to kind of cut off. But see, at some point, I think to give Stone Cold a different match and give people a match they want to see, and you give them another big time, match feel, you have Goldberg come in.
I thought you were going to say that, so I think that's perfect. Because let's say in a perfect world, like you said, in a perfect world, Goldberg's Ted Turner contract is up at the end of 2001 or the start of 2002. And then you kind of start that. Maybe, what do you say, No Way Out? You kind of start that build?
Yeah. Because for that, you don't really need a build because it's the bald goatee guy against the bald goatee guy.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
And everybody kind of, in the late 90s, we all wanted to see it. It was on the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated every freaking month. Yep, but here, I'll give the rundown of my matches.
Cool.
So, I've got Hogan Rock, obviously.
Keep it.
Austin Goldberg.
Yep.
What's up?
Huh?
What'd you say?
No, I just said yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then I have Undertaker going against Sting. So we get that. Like I said, this is a fantasy game. This is your, perfect world. Vince's checkbook's wide freaking open. So he goes ahead and brings in Sting to fight Taker. And we don't have to. Obviously, we still haven't got it, but, most likely we're never going to see it. But this would have been a good time to see it because Taker's still Taker. And
Sting's still Sting.
Sting is still Sting. And then I have...
Maybe it's a one-off.
Yeah. And then I have Flair versus Triple H.
Oh, man, that's good.
So you get the mentor versus the student, because obviously Triple H being a huge Ric Flair fan. Yeah. You get that here. And this is kind of like when you go into, Evolution. They have...
Yeah, see, that makes a lot of sense.
They have a barn burner of a match. And then, they embrace at the end. They're... Ric Flair cries like he always does. Hey, I'm a crybaby too. I've got no problem with men crying because
That's how it goes, man.
That's how it goes. I saw pictures of my kids from 3 years ago this morning and started crying. I cried yesterday, my oldest son's birthday.
No, that's all right.
So I've got, as a tag team 3-way match, I've got Harlem Heat. Hashtag vape gimmick. I've got Harlem Heat versus the Dudleys versus the APA.
I like it.
I've got Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle.
Love it.
That could be like your Intercontinental title match.
Yeah, that's on there. That's on the fucking card, man. Yeah.
I've got Jericho versus Tazz versus Billy Gunn. See, Jericho you have got representing WCW. You've got Tazz representing ECW, obviously, and then Billy Gunn's your WWF guy in this match. And, all three of those guys can go.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, you might be like, well, you're kind of throwing Chris Jericho away, but not really. Especially in this time.
It's gonna be a great match. Yeah.
And then I've got a 6-man tag. It's Raven, Saturn, and Kidman versus Too Cool. I've got X-Pac versus Dean Malenko versus Tajiri. That's your cruiserweight match.
Yeah.
I've got Big Show versus Big Boss Man, which eventually happens. I'm not sure. Actually, it kind of happened before this, didn't it?
Yeah, it was when he hung him.
Yeah. What year was that?
99.
Okay, so
WrestleMania 15.
I'm 2 years late. All right, so then I've got another tag match. It's the Steiner Brothers versus Edge and Christian.
Yeah.
I've got another tag match. It's DDP and Who Better Than Canyon versus... Because I think that would be a good match. And then this was kind of the wild card because when I sent this list over to Levi, I was like, just look at what I've got and tell me what you think stands out. And he noticed it right away. But at this point in time, it would have been a killer fucking match. I've got Taka Michinoku versus AJ Styles.
Because AJ was with the company at the time.
He was with WCW, so why not get him over? And then I've got another triple threat. This one was more of a kind of whatever. It's Funaki versus Hurricane versus Spike Dudley, just to kind of get everybody on the show. Then I've got Kane versus Mike Awesome. This obviously isn't in order of any kind. I mean, you could play with the card.
Just what you have, yeah.
And then in another triple threat match, you've got Eddie Guerrero versus D'Lo Brown versus RVD. Another triple threat of 3 guys that can all go.
Damn, they're all like dream matches.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm
saying this is a perfect world, so that's what I got. So, I mean, like I said, like the top 6 or 7 matches, you could roll with that for a year.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I love that. Even that triple threat tag match with Harlem Heat, Dudleys, and APA. They could have did some good shit with that.
Yeah, because that's one from each company.
Yeah,
and that's just the 3 great tag teams at the time, man. I loved APA.
I did too. Well, and they were kind of like that same like Attitude Era of Stone Cold. You know, we sit around, smoke cigars, and drink, and play poker. You know, I mean, they're just the boys will be boys.
Yep.
And I mean, WCW was where the big boys played.
So what do we call the official WrestleMania 18 card? We do like we said, we do Hogan and Rock for sure.
We do Austin Goldberg.
Yeah, for sure. Because Goldberg's contract is up. Whatever, you make up a little story, whatever you want to make up. And then that happens.
Do you like the Sting Taker here?
Yeah, I do, because let's just say it's fantasy booking. You say they negotiated with Turner that Sting could do a one-off match at WrestleMania. He could do a month with WWF just to make this match happen. And that's a huge selling point, because the money they're going to draw from this WrestleMania 18 alone is going to pay for whatever he had to pay out of his pocket, basically, and the build to it. Mm-hmm. The merch, the Raws, everything's going to be sold out.
Because, you could legitimately make, like especially like they do now. I see them all the time, usually on 80stees.com or Amazon, the match shirts.
Yeah.
Any of these matches I just said could be on one of those shirts.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, you definitely do Undertaker and Sting, and those are like your 3 mains right there.
Yeah.
And what was your Triple H one? Did
Flair.
You have a Triple H one? Flair. So
because Flair could still go in 01.
Yeah, I mean him and Sting had a great match on the last Nitro.
Match at Nitro was great.
Yep.
We both like the Benoit angle.
Yep.
Maybe
just because that one's just
the tag match with Harlem Heat, Dudleys, and APA. You just add the Steiners, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys. You make it like a gauntlet kind of thing.
Yeah, whatever the tag team turmoil.
Team? Yeah, who's the last team standing? You know.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, what do you do with Jericho? Because now that we're trying to like figure this out, I feel like he is getting kind of tossed aside. As much as I like my triple threat, I'm like, fuck, what do I do with Jericho here?
Maybe you just do Jericho and Eddie.
Oh,
just for a European or something.
Or
just because, yeah, exactly. You don't have to do it for a title, because that match is going to be awesome. So yeah, I mean, because that's 2 WCW, ECW, and WWF guys. So.
Yeah. Jericho and Eddie, you open the show with that.
Yeah, that's definitely open.
And then after that, maybe like the Taka AJ Styles thing.
Yeah, it's
because it's still a good match, but you're gonna get a little more high flying out of it.
But is Vince gonna let that go on the card?
Probably not. That'd be a pre-show match or a heat match.
I think you do it on heat. I'm not shooting your idea down or anything.
No. I know. But at this point, AJ Styles wasn't AJ Styles.
He was just there. Yeah, he was just a guy.
And at this point, even Taka wasn't really on TV that much. He was still on the roster because I had to look. I
Yeah.
looked at both rosters in 2001, and that's what I went off of.
After they cut off Val's PP. That
Happy
was
to PP.
Chappy to PP.
Don't mess with Mr. Yamaguchi-san.
No.
Or Mrs. Yamaguchi-san. Man, she was hot, too. Me and my brother had the biggest crush on her. We thought she was
Miss Yamaguchi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great card. What's your tag title match? The Turmoil?
Yeah,
Is that for the titles?
I say we scratch all the, because I mean, obviously we'd have to like minimize this.
Yeah.
So we scratch that. We put them all together, and it's kind of like a Turmoil / Gauntlet thing. Last team standing wins the titles.
Yeah, totally. And that makes
I have
WrestleMania
versus Mike Awesome. So I mean,
yeah, that's on there. Sure.
I was just trying to think of like two bigger guys, and Mike Awesome was WCW and ECW. So
Yeah. So we basically did book it. You know, it ends at Survivor Series with it's over with them trying to take over the company, but the WrestleMania 18 is the official culminating of all the rivalries, and after this, it just goes on with Raw and SmackDown, and it's over with.
it is what it is. WCW would officially and ECW would officially be dead.
And Sting literally after who wins Sting and Taker? Now we say who wins these matches.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Who wins
All right,
Jericho
so-
and Eddie?
All right, so Jericho and Eddie, since we'd open with that.
I think Jericho, because what we did here, we basically just took Jericho's undisputed championship reign away.
So we give him a win.
So we give him a win. What we just buried Jericho. So
But Jericho, if he ever, for whatever god awful reason he ever listens to this, he knows we love him.
yeah. This
As
was
much
just
as we talked about that Jericho Omega match, and as much as I defended him for your buddy Nesbitt calling him a middle-aged man,
yeah.
or middle-aged crazy guy, that's what he called him.
Yep.
Yeah,
He wins against Eddie.
He wins. So then I think you go to the tag team turmoil match, because Eddie and Jericho is gonna be a solid. You could probably get I'd say 30.
Yeah. And I think you just call it for a European title, just because.
Yeah, just because. And at this point, we say
That. I lost you on sound for a second. I can hear
I'm
you
back.
now.
Sorry, my wife was trying to call me. Yeah, I mean, it's for the European. Shit, I lost my train of thought.
We're on tag team turmoil, or say
okay,
one
tag
more
team
time
turmoil.
the teams.
Okay, so it's Harlem Heat,
Yeah.
the Dudleys,
APA.
Steiners, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, and DDP and Canyon.
That's a tough one, man. Who's the last man standing on this one? I think because
I see Vince going with APA
yeah,
because it's his
they're
guys.
big.
Oh my god! But I can also see Harlem Heat walking out just because legit brothers, and Booker T really got a lot of TV time at this point.
Yeah, I think in the original Invasion, he was like the shining star.
Yeah, he
Of
was the
that
one. He was
brand.
the one. Awful.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was good.
Everything was good and bad, but he was never bad.
No, Booker was always great.
And then from here, maybe Benoit Angle.
Yeah. Angle, I think wins.
Yeah.
That's a match you've seen, but it can just be done so many times and always be awesome. But I think Angle
But
wins
at this point, it hadn't been done. So this.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Then we could go. We could do
Kane,
Kane
Mike
and Mike
Awesome. I think Kane wins that because it's a WWF guy.
Yeah, but maybe even you could make it like some kind of fatal 4-way and throw RVD and Raven in.
Yeah, why not? It's for the hardcore title.
There you go.
It's who do you? It's for the WWF hardcore title. So you think a WWF guy has to win it, or does he?
I think Raven wins.
Yeah, that works. Raven's the man.
Yeah, Raven's cool.
So what was after that was Triple H and Flair.
Yeah. Because I mean, at this point, I think we book it at 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, it's
we
Mania. It can go over.
Yeah, but we don't want the 16-hour show because in our last
No.
four are probably going to go at least 20 to 30 apiece. So yeah, from here, Triple H and Flair. I think Triple H wins because who is going to beat Triple H?
Flair's got no problem putting him over.
No,
because that's Flair,
and like I said,
and he's going to cry.
Yeah, Triple H, they hug at the end, embrace, and that's kind of like we start Evolution a little early. Yeah. But at first, it's just Triple H and Flair.
I mean, that's how it was, though, at the end of the year.
Yeah, and then they kind of like look and see who's where.
See ya.
Sting, Taker here.
I feel like it is tough, but because you can't kill Undertaker's streak, man.
No, you can't kill it here. So Taker wins. But
it's a one-off. Yeah, it's a close one. It's a one-off, but Taker has to win to keep the streak, and because Sting's not sticking around, so it does no justice for him if he wins.
Sting's bouncing after this. He
goes to TNA.
Yeah, a lot of these guys start to drop off. They're like, okay, well, we're not getting TV time, so everybody that's not getting TV time is going away.
Just like how it was.
Yeah. And then we got Austin Goldberg. Austin wins.
Yep. Because that's Vince's boy, and it's our boy. So
and they're just gonna give okay, this is his first match in the company.
Yeah,
he's not wrestling. He shows up, he beats people's ass, but he doesn't wrestle until this match.
Yeah,
he's been in the company.
They cross paths a few times. Goldberg. Yeah, you were cutting out there for a second.
Yeah, Amanda tried to call again. Let's wrap this up.
All right, we're going home.
Austin beats Goldberg. Agreed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then for the strap, the main event, Hogan Rock. Hogan's the WWF champion. Rock's WCW champ. Rock wins.
Rock wins and unifies the belts because he's the man at the time.
And NWO is officially dead at the end of the show. I say Hogan even there's a fan with a Hulkamania shirt on.
Yeah.
Hogan takes it and puts it on, and the crowd loses their shit.
Yeah, it's one of those prop fans.
And Mania ends with Hogan and Rock posing in the ring to Real American.
Doing the same thing they kind of did at the original.
Yeah, but Real Americans playing in the background.
Real Americans playing.
And a flag drops down, U.S. flag drops down, and pyro starts going off.
Hell yeah.
Dude.
Hell yeah. So then, just to say,
shit.
you can pretty much say that the same thing Raw after that Mania is kind of the same because you say Hogan and Rock tag team against the NWO guys because that's what happened. And Hogan and Rock go over, and he's out of the NWO, and then pretty much from there, you just get the rest of 2002 as it is. Some things a little early, some things a little different, but yeah, that's it, man. I think that's a perfect fantasy booking of the Invasion because it's a full year.
Yeah, we just booked a full year in 53 minutes.
Yeah.
Or, well, you mostly booked the year, and then I kind of swooped in and stole Mania from you, so I apologize.
That's cool, because I didn't realize that. I didn't know I had went overboard on the booking thing, because I went pretty crazy.
It kind of let in, and then we tussled with Mania together, so.
Yeah.
I say we take her home so I can call my wife so I don't get murdered since tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I got to go do some Valentine's shopping.
And we don't want it to be a St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Oh, which we'll review next year in February.
Yeah, that'll be the 20 years. I say we do it then. We were right yesterday. We made the right call.
Yeah, so anyways, we're going to do some Valentine's shopping. That was our fantasy booking of the 2001 Invasion Angle. I think we should do another poll to see what's next for fantasy booking.
Well, I say next week. That way we can get Robert on because obviously he won't be on this week, unfortunately, because we had to drop her on SmackDown because nobody listened to it.
Yeah.
Well, people listen to it, but just not as many as we wanted to listen to it.
Yeah.
So I say next week we spend the next week working on the AJ Styles Spotlight.
Yeah, let's do AJ next week.
So we'll make Robert watch some TNA, and I'll have to go back and watch some TNA.
Well, I have a lot of them too, and I know a lot of that too as well. So,
but I'm gonna start from WCW.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Watch a couple of those matches.
Download the Global Wrestling Network.
I'm going to. I had it on my phone when it first, the first hour it was out, and it just wasn't really working the way I wanted it to.
No.
But I'll re-download it, and I'll watch some of AJ's TNA stuff on there.
Yeah, you get a 30-day trial, so.
And then we'll obviously, culminate with where he's at now. The WWE fucking champion.
And try to pump another show out this week at some point. You want to do Thursday morning, maybe?
Yeah, maybe we can do a quick one. Just to maybe recap everything that's happened this week.
Yeah.
Just like a brief 20-minute one like we did with Smackdown last week. That was a big show for us. We did good numbers.
Yeah, maybe we do Thursday morning or late Wednesday night. We just say this. Well, tomorrow's Valentine's. I can't do that.
Yeah, nix that idea.
Yeah, so maybe Thursday morning. It's this week. What's happening this week, or what happened this week?
This week, what happened this week in pro wrestling?
PW this week.
Ooh, I like that. This week in PW.
All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this.
We can play with this all we want. Speaking of playing with stuff, if you want to play with a T-shirt.
If you want to play with your computer and mouse or your smartphone, head on over to ProWrestlingTees.com/heels and quads and pick up one of our 2 designs.
Both designed by my wife's cousin, Miss Caitlin Diatley. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for your continued service. And she's actually working on a new shirt as we speak, the one we talked about last week, Levi.
Yes.
And then also I want to thank our today, Derek from Curtain Jerker Designs. He is also working on a T-shirt for us, like he talked about this morning, and he kind of surprised me with it. I didn't even know it was coming. And
thank you, good sir.
Threw that out there. But he is going to come back because we got to do a part 2 because we talked a little bit about his background, but also I wanted to talk about the more business side of wrestling. So he's going to come back when Levi's available, when we can all be together, and we're going to go into that because he did a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So that'll be a cool episode. Also, if you don't like our shirts at Pro Wrestling Tees, obviously go to collarandelbowbrand.com.
Yep. Use coupon code Heels and Quads in all caps at checkout and save yourself 10% on your order.
But why all caps?
Because we're Heels and Quads.
Welcome to the
Heels and Quads podcast. Dun, dun, dun. Tell your friends and tell your enemies.
All right.
That was a good harmony.
Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.